What is up, golf fans, and welcome back to another Two-Man Scramble, part of the Fairways Dreams podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Hartman, and as always, we have a guest on this show. When you have a two-man scramble, you need a second person, and it's a return guest. Joe Fazio of the Golf Jitsu podcast and part of the Golfer Gang Network is with us. Joe, what's up? How's it going?
What's going on, buddy? Thanks for having me. I appreciate this.
No problem. I like having return guests. You know, we don't do the rapid fire segment and all that stuff, but it's a chance for me to kind of, okay, we've gotten through the minutia of who you are and all this stuff. If you want to go back and listen to that first podcast that he did, we talked a lot about self-discipline. We even talked about jujitsu and stuff like that. So that was a really great interview. I enjoyed it. And so go back and listen to that. You can still find it on the feed. I want to talk to you though, Joe, about your 2024. You know, here we are, and I know that we're in February now, and you posted on social media it was the longest year, i.e. January, of your life.
Yes, sir.
How was your golf year in 2024? Like, when you think back to, okay, last year's golf season, whether it was from start to finish, doesn't matter. How was it?
It was amazing. I'd have to say my best yet.
Oh, cool.
I'm proud of this, and there's always a funny joke that I pull out of this, but I actually hit single digit handicap.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm a 9.9.
It doesn't matter. It's a single digit.
Yeah, but come when the weather finally breaks, which I mean, it looks beautiful outside right now, but it could be like 20 degrees. But when I actually get back to golfing, it's definitely going to jump back up to like a 15. At least for the start of the season until I can get everything going again. But yeah, no, in terms of in golf, I mean, I do have to think, obviously I know it's not the clubs, but I finally, I think, found my set, like the clubs that I know how to utilize, from like my Makefield putters to, the new Callaway AI 200s, which were game changing for me.
Okay.
Back in 2023, I got, I let my ego get the best of me, and I was playing like cavity back blades, and because I wanted that look, and your ego gets the best of you, and I struggled that year tremendously. So it's either I would really play well and I was striking them well, or it was a complete disaster. Like maybe 20% of the shots were good, 80% were crap.
Yeah.
And I kind of bit the bullet and I said, forget about this. I'm going straight up, like not game improvement, but like players game improvement. So I went and got a set of the Paradigm irons, which are like players distance irons. So they've got the player's shape, they've got the player's, length. And my ball striking went through the roof. So as far as I was concerned, you were never pulling those irons out of my bag ever again. And then Callaway came out with the AI 200s and 300s, and I tried those, and I was striking them better. So my game definitely changed for the best. I mean, I played some of the most consistent golf of my life in 2024, and I'm hoping that happens in 25, but we'll see. I haven't touched a club since before Christmas.
Yeah, well, I get it. So let me ask you this. You had a great 2024. I'm happy to hear that because I always like when people that I talk with succeed in this game. It wasn't just the equipment, though. What did you do well? You said consistency. We all strive for greater consistency in the game. But what else did you do? Did you work on anything in particular? Or was there a part of your game that kind of was a positive where maybe in the past it's been a negative? What changed in 2024 outside of equipment that caused you to get down to single digits?
Two things specifically. Number one was Golf Forever. I've been using the Golf Forever program, say 2 to 3 times a week, around practice schedules. And I think it really did a great job of kind of instilling that muscle memory on certain moves and striking.
Okay.
And then I can't remember the name of the training aid, but Sean Foley has that training aid. Maybe I forgot the name of it. It's the one that you put on your trail hand. I know
I've seen you use it, but I because you post like videos, but I don't know what you're doing.
I forgot what it's called.
It's so good you forget the name of it.
Yes, it's so good, but it's this little piece because I'm a flipper, and that was the problem with my game is that being a hockey player, I played hockey lefty, but I played golf righty. and I would to gain extra speed, flip my right hand.
Yeah.
And this training aid, I forgot what it's called. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But that training aid, just working in my backyard with a net, like even if I went out there and just hit 20 balls with a 7-iron, change the course of my ball striking. Because figure when you're out on the course, right, use your driver on, say, maybe 12 out of the 18 holes, 12 to 14 out of the 18 holes, and use your putter on every hole. But every other club that you're hitting is your irons. So I would focus on my long irons, my mid irons, and then my wedges. When I did go to the range to practice, I didn't hit drivers. Short game, short game, short game. So I made sure that my wedges were fire. And that's basically it.
Is it the Pro Sender?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, I looked it up.
The Pro Sender. The Pro Sender.
Yeah.
I didn't want to cheat and then have typing sounds, so
It's okay. I did it for you. So the Pro,
Thank
that's
you.
fantastic stuff. I mean, I guess when you think about it, I've had so many people on this podcast, myself included, when I talk about the successes I had in 2024. There's a constant, there's an ongoing chain here. There's a theme. There's a, whatever you want to call it. It's the short game. It's
100%.
You don't need to always just bomb driver at the driving range. You sometimes need to work on the shots that are like 50 yards and in, because those are the stroke saving shots. Those are the shots that, man, you had to punch out of the woods, but you have 50 yards in. If you could somehow stick it close and get up and down, you just saved yourself par, and you just saved yourself a lot of strokes.
Well, one of the things I figured out, so we did, so if you guys don't remember, I'm a part-time fitter for Callaway. So I'm Callaway biased.
Right.
And last year we did a fitting event in one of the local country clubs, and it was a little slow, right? So I had some time to like play around. So I usually bring my sticks because, just so I could practice with my clubs, right? And I worked out this 50-yard shot with my 54-degree wedge, where it's basically it kind of breaks all the rules of golf, where I'm doing totally an arm swing on it. Like there's no power behind it. I'm not really turning. It's just basically I extend fully, engine, just sweep the ball, put the ball back in my stance, and it's like my 50-yard shot. I just do this one swing, total arm swing. It gets a lot of spin on the ball, so wherever the ball lands, it stops within like 6 inches of the ball mark. That's something that I work on, so that's part of like my warm up, is that I'll hit like 8 shots like that, just so I know that I've got that shot in my bag. And then basically the strategy, like where I think this year I used a lot more, I played more strategic golf, where I wanted to get to 50 yards. So whether I was hitting a long iron off the tee, a 3-wood, or a driver, like you said, I didn't care about bombing drives and, hitting a 285, 300-yard drive. And then that, I was more focused on, I have to get to 50 yards, because then I know I can put it to, say, 10 feet of the hole.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. And it's a different philosophy. It's a strategy. And I think having a plan in place when you go out and play the game is important. And I think that ultimately, you had a good 2024 season. So let me ask you this question. Let me follow this up. Do you have any goals for yourself in 2025? Do you just want to try and pick up where you left off? You live in New Jersey. It's similar to where I live in Maryland, where it's tough. We are just now seeing grass again. Like we had snow on the ground for like the last 6 weeks. So it's difficult. I went to a simulator, which is not the same, but at least I was swinging a golf club. But what are your goals in 2025?
Just to play more golf.
Yeah.
For my day job, I fortunately and unfortunately get to travel quite a bit, like within our mid-Atlantic region, which means I get to play, golf now becomes my friend when I'm traveling, because, once I finish for the day, especially during the summer when we have that, when you really get to play that twilight golf, which is my favorite, golf now becomes my best friend wherever I am. And I found some really cool golf courses, like even in your area, what is it? Bully Rock has become one of my favorite golf courses on the planet. I think it's just to play more golf, play as much golf as humanly possible, and just have more fun with it. I kind of take the Bryson approach to playing golf, where, I try to be as strategic as possible. I don't get into the math, like say him and Phil Mickelson do, where like, I'm just testing like due rates and stuff like that and how it's
That's
going to affect
extreme.
spin. Yeah,
That's
that's,
extreme.
but in terms of talking out the shots, even if I play by myself, like, I'll talk it out in my head. Just having a good time. That's like enjoying the walk,
Mhm.
you know, that's basically it. Just enjoying the whole experience.
Are you an emotional golfer? And when I say emotional, like, are you someone that if you're not playing well, it's difficult to enjoy the walk? I mean, because I'll be honest, I've been honest on my podcast before. I've improved in this area, but I used to almost hate the game sometimes if I wasn't striping the ball the way I wanted to, and I'm out there and it's a nice day. It doesn't matter the company. I would be so mad at myself. I would leave the course feeling angry. I don't do that anymore necessarily, but are you an emotional golfer or are you just more even keel?
I was. And I'll never forget this change. One of my buddies that I play with often, my main playing partner Pete, we were playing one of the local courses, and I wasn't having a day. Driver was slicing, I was chunking everything, and I was physically getting like where when I'm stressed out, my shoulders get like this.
Mhm.
And every shot, I was just getting angry, and he was just like, dude, you got to chill. You know what I mean? You hit a bad shot and just let it go. Just forget
Yeah.
about it. And ever since that time that we had on the course, or it was early, I think no, was it last spring? It was 2 springs ago. It was early on in the season. I'm just like, I just got to let go. I just have to just let go, and who cares? So if I shoot in the 90s, I don't care. If I shoot in the 80s, awesome. That's kind of where I kind of hover in like the low to mid 80s. And every year it's been like one of my goals is, I remember when I first started breaking 80, it would happen like once a season. And then it was 2 times a season.
Right.
Now we're at about 4 times a season. So it's like, all right, well, you know what? Let's get it up to 6 times, 6 rounds. So I play anywhere between say 35 and 50 rounds. So I want to try to at least play once a week, so
Yeah.
once a week and break 80 6 times.
Hey, those are good goals. Do you track your rounds and are you a stat guy? Like you track fairways hit, greens and regulation, stuff like that?
Oh yes. Oh yes. I
Okay.
use Arcos.
Okay.
So Arcos is a mainstay, on my clubs. So I track all that data. Look at it just to understand what I need work on. And then when you go to the range, hey, if my greens and regulations are pretty low, then I'm like, all right, I got to work on wedges. My wedge game needs work, or my short iron game needs work. My mid iron game. So yes, I do track the data. Like, can I pull it up and tell you what my green and regulations are, or fairways and regulations? No, but I take a look at it.
Yeah. I
Yeah, I
get
don't
that.
live by it.
No, I mean, I use 18 birdies, the free version of the app where, it says fairway hit, green and regulation. And I'm like you. I'm like, okay, I had a day where I hit a lot of greens and regulation. And then I'm sorry, fairways hit, but my greens and regulation were low. And so I'm like, okay, I need to work on my approach game. So I might go to the range or I'm just focusing on that. Well, then I can't hit a fairway. It's like basically what these stats tell me is that my entire game needs work. Guys, I'm not that good. So I just need to keep working. But in terms of like the emotional side of it, when I, this is partly because of my children. When I take my kids on the course, especially my son, I say something to them all the time where I say, the next shot is your best shot. So even if you hit a bad shot, your next shot could be your best shot. And so you just have
Mhm.
to have that approach. And I started to say to myself, well, I could probably take that myself. And there are times where, you hit one into the woods and you're kind of underneath the tree. And sometimes a well played punch shot is the most satisfying shot in the game of golf. And next thing you know, you find yourself in jail all the way to either on the green or chipping, and you got a chance to get up and down for par. And then you look back and say, well, man, I was so pissed at myself for hitting a wayward tee shot. I actually rescued myself pretty well. So I think that forward thinking, next shot, best shot is something that I always say to myself. But let me ask you a question. I know a little bit more about your background and your faith. You've talked about that before, but man, I don't know about other sports. You said you played hockey. You have a background. You also do mixed martial arts and jujitsu. But golf might be, in my opinion, I'll ask what you think. I think it is one of the most egotistical games out there. You agree or disagree?
100%. Are you kidding me?
I mean,
Oh my goodness. Like,
I know.
so one of the funny things that like as fitters, right? So when you're taking it from like the fitters perspective, so like I think we're starting to back up in February, which I'm super excited about. Obviously in our area, it's going to be on mostly simulators, indoor, whatever country club has an indoor simulator. But you get a lot of these guys that come up to you and you when you're fitting a guy or a gal, right? You want to put the best club in their hands because listen, I need to tailor this machine or gadget club, right? To
Right.
your game, your swing, your style, your strength, your speed, et cetera, et cetera. And I can't tell you, and it only happens with the men. How many men come say, "Oh, I hit the driver 300 yards," and it's just like, "Sir, your driver swing speed is 77 miles an hour." I'm like, I hit my wedges. I swing my wedges faster than you swing your driver.
Yeah.
Like you don't hit it 300 yards.
Right.
Let's try to get you to 200 yards. How's that sound?
Yeah.
So it is a very egocentric game where like the Brazilian jiu-jitsu is a very humbling game because like one day you can be on top and you're flowing, you're moving, everything's going great, and then the next day it's like your body just was like, I don't know what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, and you're getting tapped by white belts. So it's very humbling. Like one day
Yeah.
you're on top, the next day it's we have the slogan 1% better, right? And that's when like I'm teaching white belts. um I always tell them like, don't worry about how many times I tapped you today, right? So if I tapped you 4 times in this 5-minute round, the next time we get on the mats together, only make it 4 times and then 3 times. I'm like, that's what I did when I was coming up, and like I have black belts or brown belts just completely destroying me. Just work on getting it to say, hey, I'm surviving the round, and that's it, and then be happy with it. And that's basically where golf, on the other hand, it just doesn't, like, it's all ego, because you have these high powered people, that do play the game, and they might be uh, prestigious executives in their corporations, and they have just that natural ego and competitiveness, and they bring that out on the golf course, and it usually doesn't transpire pretty well.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
different world.
I think that, a lot of people talk about like YouTube golf on influencers and social media. It's great for the game. It's helped with exposure of the game. But I think a lot of people don't realize that some of these, not all, but some of these influencers, what they portray is not real life. I know for
Mm.
a fact I've had people down in Florida on the podcast, and they've talked openly about how it's frustrating when you see these people who are influencers staying on one hole for, I don't know, 25 minutes because they keep hitting shots and they're not going to stop until they find one that they actually want to share. And so
Yeah.
like that stuff happens, but here we are the consumers of that content, and we think, wow, like this is just a regular person. This isn't a PGA pro. Look how good they are. They don't know that it took them 20 shots to finally hit one that they want to share. And I think too, I don't know. I'll get your take on this. It's easy to fall into that trap. I've
Sure it
had
is.
people on my show, and here I am, like between a 7 and an 8 handicap. I'm proud of that. It's just kind of where I live. I don't golf that much, and they're like, I'm not very good. I'm like a 3, and so it's like, well, man, that's kind of like a backward compliment, like to yourself. I'm not that good. I'm a 3. Are you kidding me? Like, come on, you're a 3. Or people that have worked their way down to scratch. Like, it's insane. But it's easy to fall into the trap of, well, shoot, they're a 3. I'm a 7 or an 8, depending on the time of the year. Man, what the hell? Like, I think that the golf, and people lie about this crap all the time. Like, you talked about the person saying that I can drive the ball 300 yards. They're like, oh, how? Oh, yeah, I'm a 7 handicap. And then you might golf with them, and you're like, dude, you might be a 17, not a 7. It's easy to
Yeah.
fall into that trap.
We had one guy, this guy about 3 years ago. He comes up and he's like, I hit the ball 300 yards. And I literally rolled my eyes at him, because like, okay. And he gets up to the TrackMan and 305, 315, 320. And he looks at me and he goes, I wasn't lying. I can't chip, I can't putt, and I can't hit my irons for crap. And he was honest about it. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm like a 30 handicap, I appreciated him because it was just like he's somebody who's humble enough to like listen, listen, like, hey man, you drive the ball fantastically, but let's get you into a set of irons that'll actually help your game instead of inhibit your game. Let's work with we have some clubs that especially with the on the wedge side that can totally change the game for them. And the putter technology is sick. What they're coming out with now is just insane. But that was a refreshing, like, where that was the one time in my entire life that if he wasn't like a pro, like, because usually when we fit the pros, they know their distances and they know what they're trying to get. They're like, hey, I can drive the ball 205, 250, but I want to get to 265. What can we do? That's attainable.
Right.
But yeah, we had one guy that actually did that. That was actually truthful in all the years that I've been fitting, which was crazy.
Well, I think sometimes too, when you take a look back at your own game and you're honest with yourself, like, I am a par bogey golfer. That's who I am. I'm a par bogey golfer. When I go out and play 9 holes, I'm hoping to be in the 30s. If I finish 3 over and I shoot 39, I'm happy. Whereas, can I sprinkle in a birdie or two? Yeah, if I'm on that day, or if my short game is working. But really, I don't practice enough. I don't play enough to ever be like someone that's really upset if I'm not even par or whatever. But I think the moment I actually just adjusted my thought process to that and said, Jeff, this is just who you are. Like, it became like okay, let's manage our expectations wisely, right? Let's not go out there thinking, hey, you have a day, like you said, where you're shooting in the 70s and you want to do that 4 times a year, or whatever. Hey, that's a manageable expectations. You're not saying I want to break 70. I got to do. It's going to be tough. Like, that's going to be really tough. But I know I've talked to you about this before, but I'm going to ask you again. So for those out there listening, the importance of getting fit, which I still need to do, even if I don't buy the clubs, I need to get fit to see what my measurables are and swing speed and all that jargon and stuff. Why is it so important for those that don't know?
Well, listen, first of all, you have to be able to consistently hit the club in order to get fit.
Right.
You can't be just a beginning golfer who's picked up a golf club once in their entire life and expect, you're not going to buy a game. If you can consistently hit shots, getting fit is super important, because everybody's got different, you have different heights, different mechanics. And it depends on your instructor, of course, that's going to, all the biometrics that you think about, like your irons could be a half inch too long for you.
Yeah.
Where if, like, hey, we went a half inch shorter, you're going to stripe the ball every time you hit it because of your biometrics. You're not going to have to overcompensate for certain things. Your swing weight is tremendous. And it took me 3 years to find, say, the shafts that fit my swing, my style, and everything like that. So I think getting fit once you have like a good foundation in your swing is super important. Unfortunately, it is, you do work for a quote unquote sales organization, so the job is to sell clubs. But in hindsight, we've taken people that have come up and it's just like, hey, listen, your best bet, instead of spending $1,500 on this, is to, go to your pro and go go buy a box of lessons, and learn how to consistently swing. Then the next time we'll be back here in 2 months or whatever, then get fit, because off the data that I'm getting from you, you're not hitting the ball well. So it's hard for me to fit you. Or the other thing too is that we have sets that, beginner starter sets, that you can get until play them for the next year or two until you get acclimated into the game and find your swing, and then we'll fit you for for the complete sets. Then there's a little bit more. One of the things I'm excited about this year with like the elites that are coming out, that I think Callaway did a bang up job. They look phenomenal, and they are straight up game improvement irons that look like players irons. They did a phenomenal job. I haven't hit them yet, but I've seen them. They look beautiful. They're gorgeous. They have like a, they're very appealing, even though with the offset, like I'm not a big offset guy. I offset actually screws something up in my head. But the top line is super. The way they rounded out the top edge is just gorgeous. So they look pretty thin on top. The soles aren't as chunky, but the way they distributed the weight, that you're getting the same kind of like turf interaction as a wide sole, but with a little bit of a thinner sole. So they look like a player's iron, but they have super amounts of forgiveness.
Cool. So let me ask you a couple clarifying questions for those out there, and these are just ballpark averages. First question that I have is, if I go to you and I say, look, I just want fit, I'm not going to buy clubs today. Is that even an option? Yes or no?
Sure, of course.
Okay, how much is that going to cost me?
What, to get fit?
I want fit, but I'm not going to I'm not buying any clubs today. Can't afford it, but I just want to know my measurables. Is that free?
Well, yeah, no, any of the places that we go to. So we're mostly at country clubs.
Right.
So it's not like you're all these fitting events that you have with the major brands at country clubs are all free.
Okay.
And we kind of leave it up to, the pro or the pro shop to actually follow up on these. But you'll have people that come in and they're like, I'm ordering. But 9 times out of 10, when you're at a country club and they get something that's just working, they're ordering it. They're ordering it on the spot. Okay. Very rarely do we get, well, I'm just going to consider it. You'll get the, you call them the tire kickers, where it's just like, hey, I just wanted to try these out. Ping's going to be here next week, and TaylorMade's going to be here next week. I want to try their stuff out too. So may the best OEM win,
All right, man. Hey, before I let you go, I want to give you an opportunity. You are starting up your podcast. Finally, you are getting your podcast off the ground. I feel like we've talked about this for a calendar year. Maybe we have. I don't know.
Yes.
So this past Monday, because this runs on Thursday, you actually debuted your first episode of the Golf Jitsu podcast. I want to give you an opportunity to plug that, talk about what you're doing and why people should listen.
Yeah. So it was a relaunch. I kind of, on the first podcast, I'm starting from scratch, doing the solo, where I'm giving the background on kind of how it progressed and everything, and how, I came up with the name Golf Jitsu, how I started playing golf, how I started in jiu-jitsu. It's, about 10-15 minutes, what's coming up. I'm currently working on just getting back. I think the first podcast is launching again this, on past Monday, and then the next couple of podcasts I'm preparing to just go solo. I learned from my mistakes of, I made the sins of the past with doing the podcast in the past, and looking to clean those mistakes up, and doing it solo for a little while, and then start inviting guests. I've got some cool things planned and some cool ideas for it, to kind of incorporate my my motley crew of golf buddies.
There you go. Well, so again, the Golf Jitsu podcast, which we are obviously, he's a part of the Golfer Gang Network. So eventually, I think we're getting that updated soon. Get your feed back up on the golfergang.com website. If not, just go wherever you get your podcasts. Look for Golf Jitsu, like in Jiu-Jitsu, JITSU. So go check it out. But Joe, man, I appreciate you taking the time, man. And I hope you have a great start to your 2025 golf season whenever it happens.
I know. I just want to put a club in my hand and swing it.
Hey, when I went to the simulator a couple weeks ago, it was just fun to swing a golf club again. It's not real golf, but it's at least something. Like, I actually had fun. I enjoyed it.
Listen, I like simulators. I do, but nothing beats hitting off of grass.
Oh yeah. But if you can't see the grass, it's going to be tough to do that.
Very true.
This white substance just remains there all the time.
Oh, God. So, yeah. The 1,000th day of January.
Finally past that. Hey, we're over that proverbial hump. We got to get through February. But Joe, thank you for your time, man. Take it easy. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.